So for more on the story, we now welcome Moshe Chertov, the Vice Chair for Media and Policy from Democrats Abroad in Israel, and David Weiner, Director of Field Operations at Republicans Overseas Israel. And both our guests are here in Israel right now. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for your time on this very important story. To start, Moshe, just 4 months since the recent escalation between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, the Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted most of the more than 4,300 rockets sent towards Israel, saving countless lives. Your thoughts on just how important it is for Israel that this funding actually comes through?
It's obviously most important for saving the lives of civilians, all of the civilians living within Israel. And it is also obvious that it will be passed. And it was a very important measure that it was taken out. It was important that it got out so that the entire budget will be able to pass without going through the ceiling, the approved ceiling, which would then disqualify it, and the budget wouldn't be allowed to continue. So it is obvious that everyone, that eventually this will be a part of the budget.
David,
I'm not worried about it at the moment.
David, let me bring you in. How worried are you? Security is always top of mind, of course, in Israel. Your take on this current situation. What do you make of this issue being brought in a separate standalone vote?
Well, I don't think the issue is whether it gets passed now or gets passed in another vote. I think the issue is where the Democrat Party is going. And as we see from Obama's times and now from Biden, it keeps getting more and more progressive and more anti-Israel. You have a lot more anti-Israel people that call for the destruction of Israel within the Congress. And not only that, the leaders of the Congress won't even speak out against them. And this is the exact reason why they were afraid that the bill wasn't going to pass. It wasn't because it was going to pass some ceiling or anything like that. They were afraid that there was people in the progressive wing of the Democrat Party that would bail and they would vote against it because of the budget for Israel being in there. And we saw it with Obama when he dropped the funding to 99 million from 200 and something million. And we saw the opposite with Trump when he raised it to 750 million to replenish it. And the last time we had to use them. So it's two different directions. And this is exactly why the Republican Party in Israel is investing so much in order to get Israelis to see what's actually going on and to help us win back the presidency and win back the Congress coming up in 2022.
Moshe, your response. There seems to be an increasing divide within the Democrats, seemingly the so-called SWAT against the pro-Israel bloc. What is fueling this divide? Your reaction to what we just heard from David?
First of all, I don't think that we should consider it actually a divide. We must remember that in Israel, there are 28 parties that can represent almost every flavor of the political spectrum that you want. In the United States, there are only 2. So in the Republican Party, they have the fringe on the right and the conservatives and those who would be considered middle. Same in the Democratic Party. But those who have proposed or have objections to passing actually the Iron Dome, they are very few. They don't run. Even the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which is the largest caucus in the Democratic Party, is the progressives. And without the progressives, Biden very likely might not have been elected, because in the election 4 years earlier, many of them voted for the Green Party, Jill Stein, et cetera. And so when they understood that what the alternative is, they got behind Joe Biden and support him even till today. And they also have said, and they realize that it's their responsibility and the responsibility of all of the Democrats to make sure that the budget passes on time. Otherwise, the Republicans have been threatening for a governmental shutdown, and we know what that does.